Hi, everyone. My name is Tony Bradley. I'm the president and CEO for the Arizona Trucking Association. I want to thank everybody who has joined today. We're very honored to have EROAD presenting to us what we need to know about the 3G sunset and what you need to know to get your fleet ready. So thank you very much for everybody for participating and joining today, and thank you for being here. And thank you to EROAD for offering this very important topic to us. Have a great day, and thank you again.
Before we begin, I just have a few housekeeping items. I apologize for the delay. Today's session will consist of a 15 to 20-minute presentation with time dedicated at the end to answer questions. All attendees will be muted for the presentation. If you have questions for the panelists during the presentation, please submit them in the question box on the side panel, and we will get to them at the end. If your colleague couldn't make it, or if you want to revisit the webinar later, we have you covered. Today's presentation will be recorded, and we will have that available for you to refer to later. Presenting today, we have EROAD's Vice President of Operations, Yasi Alemzadeh. Yasi has more than 18 years of experience in high-growth enterprise software, SaaS, and solutions companies. She is highly experienced in building customer success and operations teams. Yasi's keen insight and close monitoring of technological trends makes her instrumental in providing cutting-edge customer support programs. She is in charge of supporting EROAD customers' 3G to 4G transition plan and is here to share her experience to help you in your transition. Yasi, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Kathy. Welcome, everyone. So what we're going to talk about today is how to get your fleet ready for the 3G network shutdown, everything you need to know, and we'll give you some best practices. So just running through the agenda real quick. We'll talk through why the 3G network is shutting down, when this is going to take place, as there are various providers in the North American space, and the dates are quite different depending on which carrier we're looking at, how this is going to impact your fleet, and then we'll talk through some transition tips and best practices, and then we'll have some time at the end for any questions that anyone may have. So jumping right into it, why is the network shutting down? It's basically to support higher data usage, right? And get ready for the next generation of technologies, like what we've been seeing with 4G. We're seeing 5G come out, and then what comes beyond that, right? So shutting down the 3G network allows for the carriers like AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, allows them to repurpose the networks so that they can get ready for faster speeds to be able to provide more data, more reliable data, more video services, and taking up the speed and efficiency. So what's the difference between 3G, 4G? So we'll just go through a little fun history lesson here as we look back to a lot of us remembering our very first cell phones and how big they used to be and the lack of functionality compared to what we have today. So, you know, switching over from 3G to 4G is super important because it allows us to support a larger number of users at any given time. Population is growing, people are using technology a lot more effectively and within every aspect of their personal and their business lives. So it's really important that these networks do evolve and change because we need more speed, we need more data, we just need more. So looking at the average speeds, you can see in the first couple bullets there that with 3G, you're looking at about 8 megabits per second. With 4G LTE, which is most people are running today, or at least their phones are compatible with 4G, is running between 10 to 30 megabits per second. So, you know, up to 3 times as fast as what 3G provides for us. So 2G, 3G, 4G, that just means second generation, third generation, fourth generation. But when we look at 2G, this is what allowed us to call and text, as well as, you know, the initial SMS, the picture messaging that we were familiar with back in the early 90s. And then 3G allowed for a little bit more data, allowed for the video calling, and then allowed for us to actually access the internet on our cell phones. In the early 2000s is when 4G came out, and it's about 500 times as fast overall than 3G is today. So for those of us that do remember, this just gives you kind of a timeline of what it looks like from a technology perspective, and how often and how frequent the networks are changing and they're shutting down their previous networks. So on average, it happens about every 10 years. If you look at the history of the first 1G, we'll call it, and then into 2G and 3G and 4G. So 4G has been around for quite some time. So it's been over 10 years that it's been around, and 4G doesn't look like it's going anywhere. But it's important to know this because a lot of us, as we look at what's happening today with the 3G network shutdown, we get concerned because we think, okay, well, if we're transitioning from 3G to 4G, 4G's been around for almost 20 years. So does that mean 4G is going to shut down? And there's always plans and processes for all this stuff, and the average is 10 years, but you can see that 4G has been around for 18 years. We don't anticipate it actually going anywhere anytime soon. But what it boils down to is that whoever you use from a technology perspective, and that's whether it's in your hand on a cell phone or it's something in your vehicle, from an asset tracker to a camera, to an ELD device, whatever that may be that you're using for your personal or your business needs, you need to make sure that you're working with your technology provider to make sure that they're keeping you up to date on what they're doing with their future technology, and making sure that the technology that you are using, business or personal, is compatible with the new networks as the older networks shut down. So this gives you the top 3 major networks in North America and the dates that they're actually planning to sunset and shut down the 3G network. So looking at T-Mobile and Sprint, they're slated to shut down their network, the 3G network, on January 2022. AT&T is set for February of 2022, and Verizon was originally scheduled to shut down this year, but then extended it because they did realize that they had quite a few cell phone customers that were still operating on really old networks, and so they extended that to December 2022. At this stage, T-Mobile, Sprint, and AT&T have not extended those dates any further, but obviously that's subject to change based on what they decide. So those are the dates. And when we look at how this is going to impact our fleet and our operations, the biggest thing that you need to do as a business is to look to see if you have any old versions of technology that are running in your fleet or in your business that won't work once 3G is actually shut down. And if you're unsure of that, then please reach out to your technology provider or providers and make sure that you are compatible with the 4G LTE network or beyond. Because once those network shutdowns come with those service providers that I mentioned between January of next year to December, those technology devices that you have in your vehicles will stop working. And we've already seen, so for example, at EROAD, we've already seen some customers, and in particular customers that run their vehicles in really rural areas, that the 3G networks have already kind of started degrading, and the providers are not putting a ton of money into maintaining those 3G networks because they are shutting down. So it absolutely makes sense. But you may already be noticing that there's some connectivity issues and things like that, depending on what areas that your fleets drive through. So really important to get on top of this. And why it's so important is that if you don't upgrade your devices in time, right, and we can't count on AT&T or even Verizon to extend the date of their sunset any further, you could potentially be leaving your fleet and your business non-compliant and at risk. So really important that you reach out to your technology provider, find out which units that you have. Again, all types of technology, not just ELDs, not just cell phones. This is anything from asset trackers to cameras, anything that has to connect to a network. You need to verify that it is 4G compatible. Otherwise, those units will just stop working. So what we're doing for our customers here, and hopefully for those of you that are not EROAD customers and are working with competitors of EROAD, have been working with your providers to get planning for this swap out and for this 3G shutdown. So making sure that you plan ahead. I mean, it's already June. We're cutting it close. You've got 6 months, and you want to avoid any kind of service disruptions or any kind of compliance issues once that shutdown actually does happen. So it's really, really important that you plan ahead if you haven't already. So if you haven't started to kind of research this and really dig through all the technology that you're using within your organization to see what needs to be swapped out and what doesn't, don't wait any longer. You know, there is a global supply chain shortage that is happening from every industry, from vehicles to gaming, and that does not exclude the telematics space. So it's super important that you do reach out to your provider if you haven't already. Make sure that they do have an ample number of units to be able to swap you from a 3G to a 4G compatible unit. And make sure that you review as you're going through this. It's a perfect time to really review your options with your technology provider to see what new features they may have, what new functionality, what kind of technology they're working on, and maybe even asking them what they're doing to prepare for that next network shutdown. So one of the things that we've done here at EROAD, we started this process over a year ago to start swapping out our customers from 3G to 4G, because this is something that's been very well known. We've known about it for quite some time. And so what we've done is we've been proactively reaching out to customers and been swapping them, like I said, for over a year now. And this just gives you an idea of something that we're doing with our customers, and hopefully you're able to do with your providers if you're not an EROAD customer. Is we've put together some forms and some email addresses specifically for customers to reach out to us if they have not heard from us yet. But again, we have been reaching out to them proactively to get people excited and interested in swapping out these units, because it is time consuming, right? Whether you have 5 units or you have 50 or 5,000, this is a time consuming thing, and you can't stop your business from running just to swap a 3G to a 4G unit. So it does take some time, especially depending on the size of your fleet, as those vehicles come into your yard or to the home base, for them to be swapped out. It's really important that you look at that and see what you have to do, because you want to plan out for it, given that you may only have 6 months, depending on what network your devices are running on. So we've got specialists that work with our customers, and they basically review their accounts and discuss what their existing plan is, what they may want to switch to. There might be lower cost options. And we talk them through, you know, we have a lot of customers that have mixed fleets. They have some 3G units, some 4G units. So we evaluate that all with them, go through it with them. And then once we've reviewed everything and we finalize, then we go ahead and we ship out the 4G compatible unit so that they can swap at their discretion. So pretty simple, pretty easy. I guess the moral of the story is don't wait. Get on top of this. This is not something that's going away. It is happening. It's inevitable. It's going to start happening in 2022. And so it's really important that you reach out to your technology provider if you haven't. Evaluate all your options as it relates to all your technology solutions in your vehicles. And one of the things that has come up in other webinars that I've done is that, you know, there's always questions about the back end technology, not necessarily the technology that's in the fleet, and if that has any kind of impact. And I guess, you know, one of the things is, as you're talking to your technology provider, that's just something that you want to ask them, and you want to confirm that that's not going to have any impact if you switch any of your in-vehicle technology to 4G compatible units. Is that going to impact your back-end software? At EROAD, for example, that doesn't impact anything. There's nothing that needs to be done on that end, but it is a good question to ask your technology provider to make sure that there's not much more that needs to be done outside of the physical hardware replacements. So with that, I will pass back to Kathy and see if we have any questions that I can answer.
No questions yet, Yasi. I think you've done a really good job explaining everything and the importance of getting ahead of this issue. We'll leave it open for a few more minutes to see if we get any questions from the audience. We got a thank you from Jeremy. Thank you, Jeremy. I think we can probably wrap this up, Yasi. This has been great so far, and I want to thank the Arizona Trucking Association and Tony Bradley and Rhonda Merkel for their support and assistance in putting this together. If you guys have any parting words,
No, thank you for presenting. I noticed that it was recorded. If you guys will go ahead and share this with us, we will make sure to put it on our website as well.
absolutely, we will get that out to you as soon as it's available.
Great. This was great information. Thank you so much. Who knew that I get a little notification on my personal truck that I need to upgrade from 3G to 4G, but this was great information, particularly the timing. And one thing I didn't think of was you're right, there is a global shortage right now on chips and electronics. And so that's something people need to take into consideration now rather than waiting.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you, Yasi, and thank you, Tony, and thank you, Rhonda, again, and thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Look for
Thanks,
the
everybody.
recording to come through to you. Have a good day.
You too.